systems that complex take a long time to build and a long time to perfect.
Well, and so part of your background too, because you didn't always work on nutrition stuff. You spent a lot of time in your career on like urban planning, and we've talked before about how urban planning timescales are just different than most things, right? And because I think we both share this in common, like looking at the stuff I'm doing with companies, like I'm not really looking at stuff under 10 years, and you were like that's an ultra sprint, right? Like how did kind of that mindset around what you learned from doing urban planning for so long kind of affect your thinking on how to affect nutrition?
That's a great question. I started my career in one of the poorest zip codes in Massachusetts. And when you cut your teeth in a really low income area that's incredibly resource constrained, you learn to have a lot of patience. You learn that it takes a lot of time to learn the nuances of the system. Everything you think is right is wrong. Everything you think is obvious is not obvious. So the learning curve is huge when you're in a system that's that complex. And so I learned the patience around, no, you got to take 5 years to learn it. Like, then you take another 5 years to think about partnering on solutions. Then
Yeah.
you got another 5 years to start to design the fuzzy front end of those minimum viable products. And then
Yeah.
the final stretch of that is finding what worked, run with it, what didn't work, jettison it, then kind of, iterating and starting over. And I was in that place for nearly 20 years in different capacities. And I got to see projects begin and end at a 20-year cycle. I also have some of those projects I worked on 20 years ago, they're still going on, you
Yeah.
know? But I believe that, we all have to have some patience and understand things will transcend us. I am
Yeah.
not so precious to think that anything that I personally start will be my win.
Mm.
If it transcends me and it becomes someone else's win, or not even a win, but a moment that someone learns from, if
Yeah.
I can just have contribute a learning moment, don't do this, that's not useful. We went down that path and it didn't work. That's brilliant, right? That's really helpful. So I love thinking in really long time spans. Most people don't have that much patience because they want to look. I think as a human, you want to see the gratification is I did something that worked and let's go. And, I don't know. It's never like, it's never been a thing for me.
That's a metaphor, I think, for like how nutrition policy or any policy can kind of go, that having that patience because nothing's instant. But that also scales down to the individual. That's like staying on a healthy diet too. It's like if you go eat a salad this afternoon, it's not like you immediately lower all of your cholesterol and you become this like, invincible person. Like you have to sustain these activities. And I think nutrition's always been funny to me because like academically, look, I know we can always research more and understand more, and there's so much to understand. But I feel like scientifically, we know a lot about how to put people what to eat to just stay healthy. Like it's not rocket science per se. Yet it's sometimes I battle like, is it a science problem or is it a cultural problem? Because the culture is really what's driving us to choose not healthy foods. Like we all know what's healthy, especially now you Google it. What's the healthiest meal this week, right?